Hey everyone, welcome to Unleash Your Life Force. I'm your host, Dr. Natasha Nelson, your life doctor. So if you are new and this is your first time finding my video, well, welcome. For those of you who've heard me before, welcome back. If you're new, one of the things that's so important for me is really about tying the pieces together to understand the mind-body connection. So each episode is focused on one body part. So I talk about a little bit about the physical, but really to help you understand the mind-body connection and somatic healing has to do with the emotions. What emotions are tied to the different parts of the body? Because I want to teach you the language that the body uses to get our attention when we need to learn something, to get our attention. The body talks. The body's always talking to us. But it's our job to learn how to interpret the signs and symptoms and signals that the body uses instead of ignoring them or covering them up, or worse, like hiding from them and numbing them. So today we're going to talk about the intestines and the colon and digestive issues and the gut, and a little bit about how all those things work together and how the emotions are tied into it. So I want to start with, think about some of the common phrases that are used when talking about digestive issues. And this can be everything from, constipation, bloating, cramps, irritable bowel syndrome, anything that is digestive related. So think about some of the common phrases and sayings around the digestion, which is like, your gut feeling. That's the most common, the most obvious. It applies to the whole digestive tract and really with the stomach included, because that's where we feel it. But it shows up in the gut, in the intestines, and I want to focus on that. I'll do a different episode specifically on the stomach at a later date. So the gut feeling is about your intuition. It's about being able to feel and sense what is invisible or not perceived by your five senses. So we would call that your sixth sense, your seventh sense, things that are not the physical. What about the term, just spill your guts? It's about oversharing. It's about having the vulnerability and the willingness to share deeply, share the things that you feel most emotional about or the most insecure about. How about having the guts? Like, do you have the guts to go for it? Or do you have the guts to do it? Which means, having the courage and the nerve to act on it. You hear maybe no guts, no glory, about taking risks, about being able to feel uncomfortable and still taking action. And how do those really relate to our gut, our digestive issues, our digestive system? So if you think about the colon and the large and small intestines, if you were to stretch them out end to end and take the anatomy, and the small and large intestines is about 20 to 24 feet in length. And you think about, and you're like, dang, 24 feet. Where is that all in there? It's all in there, but it's not like the pictures show this way. It's all in the front, but you have from the stomach to the back, it fills everything. And it starts like underneath where your diaphragm is, goes all the way down to the bottom. So there's room in there. And every morsel of food that we eat has to travel through all 20 feet of tubes to be able to be broken down, to absorb the nutrients, because that's what the small intestines is about. It's in the small intestines that you have what's called microvilli, that your body can absorb the protein, amino acids, fats, oils, all the vitamins, everything that is in the food, your body absorbs. Your body will also absorb the things that it doesn't want or need, all the toxins. It's not absorbing them because they want to, but they leak out from the gut. The large intestines, the colon, is responsible for absorbing water. So part of how your body stays hydrated and the hydration system is drinking the water, but your body has to absorb it. And a lot of it is absorbed in the large intestines in the colon before the final destination of the meal that you ate traveled through, meal comes out. So when food does not travel and go all the way through, if it takes too long, and it's constipation, when food sits too long in the system, it rots. So all the proteins, all the carbohydrates, all the fats, fats turn rancid. But food rots. And as it rots, it interferes with the chemistry in the intestines. This is why people can eat enough nutrients, even enough calories, but if your body can't absorb it, you can also be malnourished. Even though you are eating it, your body's not absorbing it. Some of the symptoms, I touched on a few, but this is where like leaky gut syndrome will come in. When food doesn't pass through and it stays too long and it's stagnant, those 20 feet of tubing starts to expand. So instead of having a tube like this, it just starts to expand and expand and expand with food that's collecting on the inside of the walls of the tubes in your intestines. So kind of an analogy I want you to think about is, when you have holes in the walls and you put drywall, like spackle, it's like that paste that you use to fill the hole in a wall. Well, that's actually what cholesterol does for the body. That's a different topic. But when food collects and it acts as like spackle and drywall in there, and it just builds and builds. And so the tube gets bigger and hardened, but the amount of space where the hole goes through gets smaller. You get poop plaque, is what I call it. Poop plaque is when all the food that you've eaten gets trapped, along with all the toxins that were in the food get trapped, which now causes inflammation and irritation in the small and large intestines. And what does your body do, naturally to try to get rid of it because it's toxic and it's uncomfortable, is it will squeeze harder. So that's how you can get cramping. And sometimes you can get diarrhea because it pushes everything out so fast and it's too much at once. But your body is trying to get rid of the toxins before they leak out of your colon and get into your circulatory system and travel the entire body. So when you think about somatic healing, which is addressing the emotions that get trapped in the body, now that I've given you the context of how the colon and the intestines function, I want you to think about, okay, when it's not functioning properly and there's a dysregulation of the nerves that affect the body, or food getting trapped, nourishment that's stuck, I want you to think about what that means in the mental space, the emotional space of being able to let things go. Being able to let things go. There's so much that as humans we hold on to that become toxic emotionally and mentally. And of all the different emotions, this really connects to resentment. Because resentment is really about our inability to let things go. Because as humans, we hold on to things. We really do. Even if we think we're letting them go, we hold on to them in our memory, sometimes in our heart. There's also a survival component to that. It's part of memory to say, hey, something that was painful, something that hurt us. Part of remembering that is a way to avoid future pain, which makes sense. But the human element of holding on beyond its expiration date is really where our soul is saying, hey, it's time to pay attention. It's time to let it go. So there's no accident that the colon and poop plaque buildup coincides with the lack of forgiveness and resentment that we like to hold on to. So there's a visual for you. Resentment is like the poop plaque that builds up in your colon that causes bloating and constipation and diarrhea and irritable bowel syndrome and leaky gut syndrome and even cancer. That's how it actually starts. So, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to finally resolve and excrete and get rid of? What's toxic in your body that has been stuck for a long time, that it's time? So let's talk about resentment. Resentment is in the same family as anger, rage, terror, that whole family of emotions. But resentment is really about, the inability to let it go because we haven't been able to emotionally complete it. Because once we complete the cycle of understanding, the cycle of information, the cycle of the purpose of that event or situation or circumstance, once we really do the healing and we really get to the depth of understanding what happened and why it happened, not from a place of blame or judgment, but from a place of information being provided for you. Once you get to that place, it's no longer circulating and stuck in your system. You'll let it go. So resentment, let's talk about that. Tied in with resentment is, when we look at another person in our life that has hurt us, or you see somebody being hurt by a third party and you're watching, but it's usually attached to something personal that's happened to us. And there is a part of us that looks at this person and wishing they just could have been better humans. Like, we don't understand. How could they have done that? Why did they do that? Couldn't they just be a better human to understand that what they did was wrong or hurting us? But really, even below that, because in that first statement, there's judgments and we judge and we don't like what people do or what they say. But resentment comes from when we experience, whether we're watching it or it's aimed at us, another person's actions or their behaviors, and it causes a loss in our life. It could be financial, could be, anything. It's something that has value. So when there is a loss of something of value, and it's because of another person's actions or behaviors, when there is no acknowledgement or accountability or responsibility, but when there are no consequences, when we are unable to see the consequences to them for their wrongdoing, for their actions, the behaviors that hurt us, our mind has a hard time reconciling with that. The idea that there are no consequences, it doesn't sit well. And when it doesn't sit well, it's the resentment that their actions, their behaviors that caused harm, that caused hurt, that they didn't experience any consequences for what they did. So on the subconscious level, it's almost like if we carry resentment at them, then somehow that's supposed to make up for the lack of consequences. Like we're going to try to hurt them with our resentment, which we know ultimately doesn't hurt them at all. Our resentment only hurts us. So I want you to really think about that though, and how to move through resentment. It's because when we see wrongdoing or see something that hurts and we don't see consequences for it, we're also assuming that there are no consequences happening. There may not be any consequences in that moment at the time that you are watching, or even a short, time after. But the resentment is tied to the belief that there will never be consequences, that they will not have to pay for what they did. And that's the part that we just can't let go of. Part of holding on to resentment, it's our own desire and like wishing and hoping that there's going to be revenge. Not that you are going to enact the revenge on them, but we want to see revenge. Because if there are no consequences, then it becomes the desire for revenge to make up for it. That's all tied in to the resentment. And if you go a little further, a little deeper, resentment has to do with ultimately wishing that the situation didn't happen or that it was different, wishing that the person was different, wishing that whatever actions or behaviors happened, it's like wishing that they didn't happen. And it makes sense because when something hurts and we can't fix it, we can't change it, and we can't make them hurt, and we don't see consequences, we wish that they were different, or that we were different, or the situation was somehow different, wanting something to be fair. But that's all tied to the outcome and completion, as if something has to happen for the cycle or circle to be complete, which is why resentment feels so hard to move through and release, because there's no ending, there's no completion, there's no consequence, like, where does it stop? Where's closure? So how to let go of the poop, plaque, toxins physically in your colon, but the poop, plaque, toxins emotionally and mentally that are affecting you. It's being able to, you can say go deeper, you could say go higher. It's being in a place where you don't know the outcome, you don't know what you can't see, you don't know what's the unknown in there, and being at peace with that. Trusting and knowing, even though consequences, you don't see them, it doesn't mean they're not happening. Energetically, because the energy, how energy flows, there are always consequences. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even in the, kind of sort of short, long term, but consequences always happen. It might be decades before the whatever was done completes itself. So your ability to let go of the resentment is having the knowledge and the trust that the universe is handling it. The universe is taking care of it. Now, the universe doesn't operate out of punishment necessarily, consequences, or revenge, even though that's kind of how we would like it. But energetically, the way energy travels, there are consequences, and you may never get to see it. You may never get to know the outcome, but you just have to trust and believe that God is handling it, the universe is handling it, spirit is handling it, and find peace to just know consequences are happening just beyond your ability to see it or know it. And you may not like that, but that's all I have for you. I get it. It's hard. I didn't say that, healing is not necessarily easy. It might have simple answers or things that are simple to do, but it's not easy. Because emotionally, when things hurt, we want solutions, we want completions. And when we don't get them, it can feel really hard. I get that. But ultimately, this is for you and your health. It's for you to be able to let go, to be able to poop all those toxins out, to release all the toxins from your body. Because all of that energy that's stuck in you is the energy that you need for your body to heal, for you to connect with people, for you to go after your dreams and your whatever you want, and even just get a good night's sleep. You need the energy for that. So that's where your focus should be. So when it comes to letting go of resentment, do the best you can, little by little, any chance you can. A little bit of energy that you are able to bring back to yourself for healing matters. And of course, forgiveness. You forgive yourself in the process for not knowing better, for how you may have been tied up in it, for any actions that you did that brought all those things together. It's the forgiveness of yourself too. So that's all I have about healing the gut, healing digestive issues, taking care of your intestines and your colon so that it can heal, your body can function, your body can absorb the nourishment, the nutrients, everything that it needs to be healthy. So, I think I'm going to leave it with that. Yeah. I'll go into a little bit more when I talk about the stomach and gut health there. But I think this was a lot for today and a good start of getting your attention to focus where it needs to go, hopefully to help you reclaim some of that energy. Because, I always say you got to feel your feelings or your body will feel them for you. And resentment is a heavy duty emotion that if we don't feel it, causes a lot of trauma, additional trauma to the body. So I'd love to hear from you. Please, subscribe, like, share. If you found this video to be helpful, help me by sharing it, by leaving me a comment. I'd love to hear, if you're willing to share, what is it that you are having a hard time letting go of. I read all the comments and I answer them personally, so I will help you in any way that I can. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you and your time. I know it's very valuable, so I do appreciate you. So this is Unleash Your Life Force. I'm your host, Dr. Natasha Nelson. So until next time, feel your feelings or your body will feel them for you. Okay, bye.